ahead. Okay, Rob Brown here on this Wednesday afternoon AU Undercover podcast. Ronnie Sanders down in Hoover. Coach Tim Brewster, who's been with Mack Brown, Jimbo Fisher, Deion Sanders, Dan Mullen. What a career. You're going to hear about some of the athletes that he's coached along the way. Things have turned out. Sometimes people, what did Sherlock Holmes' assistant, Dr. Watson, say? Nothing's more deceptive in life than an obvious clue. If you've ever been a recruiter, you find a lot of guys like Mr. Gates. We're going to talk about him today. Kevin Skarbinski will check in from the corners just north of Birmingham. Doug Dean in Vestavia in Birmingham. And our executive producer, Brendan Martin, is down in Ocala, Florida. Look, man, technology is really cool, Coach and Ronnie. I was on Safari for a long time, and my producer kept telling me for months about Chrome, and I just wasn't thinking about Chrome. I'm thinking a Chrome finish, and it's like Google Chrome. But we got through it. We persevered. We hung in there, and we busted through it. Welcome to the show, man. Ronnie, you know Tim Brewster, and I think everybody after this show is going to want to know more about him.
Yeah, we've known each other a long time now, haven't we, Brew?
Ronnie, it's great to be on with you, buddy. Longtime friend, outstanding coach, administrator, and now coaching agent. You do it. You do a hell of a job. I'm fired up to be on with you guys.
I appreciate you being on. You and I were talking yesterday about tell us a little bit. Tell us your story about Antonio Gates, who just went into the Hall of Fame.
Well, it's a Ronnie and guys. It's an amazing story, and I just I was a first year coach with the San Diego Chargers, and I was watching. An agent sent me some basketball videotape of this guy Antonio Gates at Kent State, and I'm watching this guy hoop against Kentucky and Indiana, and I mean explosive jumper. I mean the right size. Had a big old ass on him that, boxing out, moving people, creating space. And so I got very intrigued with him. And I just started, Ronnie, the recruiting process, man, you got to work. And so I started calling this guy, I started calling Gates, and then he had his pro day. And so I went down there, and his pro day was a basketball game. So he's running the court. He's jumping, dunking, doing some really good things. And then finally, after that was over, I said, hey, listen, let me throw some balls at you. Let me, had really good hand-eye coordination, soft hands, really. And this is how crazy the NFL is, guys. The whole league was invited. I was the only tight end coach to show up, and there were 4 other teams that showed up. Okay. So I go back, the long story short here, I go back to San Diego and I talk to Marty Schottenheimer, my boss. And Marty says, Brew, I'm not going to use a draft pick on Gates. I said, Marty, use a supplemental, use a 7th. I mean, let's get this guy because I just believe he's going to be an outstanding player and will be an outstanding player for us. And so anyhow, I had to sweat the draft out. You guys know how that works. The minute the draft was over, I was on the phone. I had been calling him every single day for a month prior to the draft. Guys, I paid him $3,500, and he became a San Diego Charger. I coached him his first 3 years. Guys, I left and went to the Broncos, but not too long ago, I got a call from Gates, and, he said, Brew, he said, I didn't always like you. You were hard. You were tough on me. Time is our enemy. That was my saying with Gates. We got to get it done today. And he said, Coach Brew, we got it done. And you're the first person that I'm going to invite to join me in Canton, Ohio on this summer. July 29th, I think I'm going to Canton, and you got the game and you got the enshrinement, and it's going to be it's got to be my proudest moment, man. One of the players that I coached, and is going in the Hall of Fame.
16-year pro career. I mean, average career is 5 years. I mean, we talk to a lot of guys, they get 16 as a tight end. You don't see that very often, do you? I mean, it's rare.
Unbelievable. His durability, and guys, I'm telling you, his dad wanted him to be the heavyweight boxing champ of the world. I mean, he Gates boxed at Kronk Gym in inner city Detroit. Okay, I mean, that kid boxed. He played basketball. He played, as a youth guy, high school guy. He was a good football player. I mean, the guy, but his body was made for durability. From the waist down, he was massive. Yeah. And I tell you what, guys, he never stayed hurt. He never got hurt. The guy was always ready on Sunday, and he went down in history. He scored more touchdowns than any other tight end in the history of the National Football League.
Yeah, everybody thinks about Gronkowski, 9,000 career yards, but Antonio Gates, all-time, Ronnie, and Coach, all-time touchdown leader as a tight end. I mean, I can't think of a tight end who played 16 years. How long did Kellen Winslow play? He's the standard in San Diego. Right. He was the standard in San Diego. He is, I guess you'd say. Yeah. But Gates, the thing about it is I don't think Gates gets his just due. No. I mean, Gates was absolutely money every Sunday. You punch the clock and he's there. I mean, and so and you know what? He never, like away from the game, in the street, whatever, good dude, never caused any problems for the organization. I mean, just, and right now, he's still, to this day, he's an ambassador for the San Diego Chargers. He still works for the Chargers today. And I've talked to the Spanos family, and it's just we're gonna have one hell of a celebration in Canton, Ohio, the end of July. Yeah, I mean, I think Ronnie and Coach, it's a great story because you look at someone to last that long, still involved with the team. And one thing I've learned from NFL guys that I do know, we have like Ben Troop on here and Wesley Britt, Roman Harper. They all talk about you have to be highly intelligent to survive in the NFL. Just to Jason Campbell, who I know from Auburn quarterback, said when he got to the Redskins as the first-round pick, he goes, you've had your ass kicked all day in practice. You go home, take a shower. You're not going to lay on the couch and play video games and take a nap. The fax machine is, remember fax machines, 50, 60 pages of plays to come in from the coach going, call me if you have any questions. Yeah, and I want it learned by tomorrow morning at 8:00. That's right. I mean, it's absolutely. But this is the deal, guys. Okay, with a football player, you want to know this. Ronnie knows this. Does football make sense to you? Yeah. Does football make sense to you? If football makes sense to you, it's going to be all good. But some guys, it's like they're talking Japanese or something, and they just can't get it, And so there's all different kinds of way of learning. But, if you give a guy some information and ask him to spit it back to you, and he does a really good job of doing that, then you got to feel good about that. And that's what Gates was, just an outstanding learner. He picked it up in the meeting room, and then he could take it right to the practice field and execute it. Didn't have to go through the walkthrough, didn't have to do, football made great sense to Antonio Gates. Yeah, I mean, you talked about, Ronnie, both of y'all have coached. I have not, other than my kids' teams, but the intelligence level. Gates, 16 years. And that He should be a household name, but he didn't cause any problems on or off the field. I mean, what a pleasure it must have been to coach him. It really was. And I loved every second. The hardest thing I've ever done, guys, was when I made the decision to leave the San Diego Chargers and join Mike Shanahan with the Denver Broncos. I was walking away from two people that I absolutely loved, and that was Antonio Gates and Marty Schottenheimer. Marty Schottenheimer named me after my first year. I was 1 year in the National Football League as a coach. He named me the assistant head coach of the San Diego Chargers. Okay, he was amazing to me. Wow. Had Gates, but I just didn't feel like
I could pass up the opportunity to go learn from an offensive strategist like Mike Shanahan. He was absolutely the best, guys, the best play caller I've ever been around. I mean, you talk about balls of steel. I mean, this guy would call it, man, 4th and 1, 4th and inches. He's going to throw the football. He's going to run it when you think he should throw it. I mean, just an extremely dynamic coach. And like I said, I was 2 years with Mike Shanahan in Denver before getting the head coaching job at the University of Minnesota.
Yeah.
What was it like working for Shanahan versus Schottenheimer? I've heard some stories.
Well, just two totally different guys, Ronnie. Like Schottenheimer, old school. Put the pads on and keep them on. Okay? Put the pads on and keep them on. We're going to go 9-on-7. We're going to, team. We're going to run power as many times as we can run it. I've never seen, and power, is God's play. Make no mistake about it. Power is God's, and nobody loved it more than Coach Schottenheimer. And I mean, it's pure wreckage, man. Downhill, A-gap run. We're pulling the guard. We're kicking the thing with the fullback. I mean, this is back when, 21 personnel, guys. 21 personnel. You're playing with a tight end and a fullback. And I mean, it's a play that truly identifies who you are as a football team. And it really identified us with the San Diego Chargers. Whereas Mike was more of a play action guy. And I'm going to tell you what, guys, one of the things Mike did, and I thought he was genius about it, once we got into the season, Mike never put pads on. We never practiced in pads once we got into the season. And it was all about game speed. It was all about tempo. It was all about, execution, flawless execution in the passing game. Mike was a huge Ronnie naked guy, right? Play action, run the boots, run the nakeds off of it. And, he was just outstanding. But his confidence, Mike, it just poured out of him, the confidence. You talk about swag. Mike Shanahan had real swag, and he just believed in himself. He believed in his system. And certainly, Mike Shanahan needs to be in Canton, Ohio. He's one of the all-time great ones, and Marty was as well.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You talk about different coaches and what it's like to work with them. Yeah, Jimbo Fisher spent a lot of time at Auburn, spent a lot of time in the SEC. Talk about what that was like. You guys won a national championship.
And I spent 6 of my best years of my life with Jimbo Fisher. I love Jimbo like a brother. I mean, Jimbo is another one of them savant type guys, play caller, loves ball. And I loved coaching for Jimbo. I mean, he had some Marty Schottenheimer traits in him, where you talk about tough, hard-nosed guy. Jimbo's one of them guys that said, hey, call him up, let him know we're going to be in the parking lot at 2 a.m. and tell them not to be late. Tell them to show up, because I'm going to tell you what, we're going to kick some ass. And I loved his mentality. I loved his work ethic. Jimbo was truly, he's one of the outstanding coaches in the business. What we've got to do, guys, we've got to get Jimbo Fisher back in the game. Okay. College football needs a coach like Jimbo Fisher, a national championship coach, I think the world of them. Our profession's going to be better the minute Jimbo gets back in. I'm just surprised that he's not back in already. Because of what he's put on the grass is just he's won a bunch of games. He's won a national championship. I mean, I don't know what more the guy needs to do. Had a great run at Florida State. We did some really good things. I was with him for 1 year at Texas A&M. We did some good things there. But I really look forward to seeing Jimbo back on the field, Ronnie. I think, like I said, it's going to be a better place with him in it.
Yeah, and I know Doug Dean is trying to get in the show. I hope his link is working. He's in Birmingham. He's got questions for you, but hopefully we can get it worked out. But I'm with you. I look at these coaches, And I know some of them with NIL and the portal and all the stuff you got to deal with. I mean, God bless America. What I want out of people is a commitment. I have 4 kids. Either you're committed or you're wasting my time, you're wasting my space. The stories about people like Antonio Gates, you found him and he worked his ass off, and look what he did. And then he's a model citizen on and off the field. We don't hear, I mean, one of my favorites is the guy, Takeo Spikes, who played at Auburn, played in the league 15 years.
Right.
He's got so much pride in everything he does, and I think the biggest thief out there isn't somebody putting a pistol to your head and taking your wallet. It's your brain and your mind telling you you're not good enough. And you get these guys, the marriage between a coach like you who gives a second damn and a third damn and an athlete like an Antonio Gates, that's what we love about sports, man. I mean, I get so fired up seeing every day people that come from, as Keith Jackson would say, they come from humble beginnings, but when they put on that Auburn jersey, that Alabama jersey, and they run through that tunnel at Legion Field, the trees and the hills in North Alabama start trembling. That's what we love about sports.
I love it. Hey, I'm going to give you guys another tidbit, okay? Yeah. I was the tight end. That was a pretty damn good one, okay, at the University of Illinois, all right? Played for Mike White, was captain of a Rose Bowl team. But one of the greatest things I ever did, guys, was play in Coach Bear Bryant's last game as a coach at the University of Alabama.
Wow.
Okay?
Oh, my God. I'm from Memphis. Yeah. I was there.
I remember it like it was just a cold night in Memphis, Tennessee. Yeah. And I remember coming out for pregame warmups, and there was Coach Bryant leaning against the goalpost, just like he always did, And I had an opportunity, guys, to talk to Coach Bryant that week, leading up to the game. I told him, I said, hey, I want to play, but you know what? I think my destiny is to coach. And Coach Bryant told me, he said, you go get you a high school job and you learn how to coach first, and I took it as the gospel, and I was a GA at Purdue, and then I became a head coach at a high school in Lafayette, Indiana, had 97 students in 4 grades. I taught government and economics. I called every offensive play, every defensive play, and set the special teams. My wife washed the uniforms after the game. I mean, I think that was exactly what Coach Bryant was telling me to do, man.
Yep. I mean, absolutely. Doug, jump in this conversation with Tim Brewster. This is great.
Coach Brewster, Doug Dean of Birmingham. Actually, I'm in this Auburn man is in Tuscaloosa of all places today, and happy to be here because it's the home of my daughter and her husband with the 2-year-old and another baby boy on the way. I think their heavy leans to somewhere in the SEC. That'll be just fine. Coach, on the show recently, as we look ahead to this college football season and the different coaches, and our focus is typically on the Deep South. One of the things I've observed, and it's just a theory about Coach Freeze, he loves, and I saw this in Coach Spurrier back when, great coaches, they love the play calling. You got a head coach that likes to call plays, but sometimes they can have to mature that there are certain games that you just might have to win ugly. And there's the late Coach Stallings like to say, the great Gene Stallings, the fun is in the winning. In the NFL, you're going to have to win a few games ugly if there's such a thing as an ugly win, Coach. Can you comment on the dynamic of what you talked about Shanahan, what a great play caller, of what I'm describing? It's not just Hugh Freeze, the coaches having to understand as a game progresses, you might have to play to your defense and win a 17-13 game, Coach.
No question. And you're dead on. You got to do whatever it takes to win. And this is what we got to do as coaches. Okay. I sat down with my staff on Friday night before a Saturday game, and we talked about every single situation. We talked about what it's going to take to win the game, what the offense has to do to help the defense, what the defense has got to do. They've got to get some turns. They got to get the ball back for the offense, and doing whatever it takes. Style points don't matter. You guys know. I mean, it doesn't matter a damn thing. Forget style points.
Especially not with a 16-team playoff, right?
Yeah, exactly. And don't ever give up on the run game. Don't give up on the run game just because, you don't. And so many play callers, give up on the run game so fast, too fast, and then you're doing a tremendous disservice to your offensive linemen, because them defensive linemen, particularly in the SEC, men, holy moly! I mean, these guys are teeing off. I mean, coming off the edge, the best defensive tackles in America are rushing the passer inside in the SEC. I had the pleasure of working, at University of Florida, at Mississippi State, at Texas A&M. I know exactly what the SEC is all about. It's the best football conference in America, bar none. There is no doubt, no question about it, okay? I truly believe that it's the best football conference in America. It's got great coaches. And let me just tell you this much. A guy that I admire tremendously, okay, Kirby Smart. I think Kirby Smart.
Great coach.
You talk about a dude, a real dude who was schooled by the absolute best in Coach Saban. But you think for 1 second Kirby Smart really cares about style points?
No.
Kirby ain't talking about no style points. And when Coach is sitting with a kid, with a recruit, and that recruit is talking more about money than his love for the game, I'd be willing to bet you that conversation ends right then and there.
Yeah.
And Coach went some games. I bet that script you talked about during the week as a coaching staff, you would talk about what you're going to do, not giving up on the run. That script is different with each opponent, depending on what you're going to get in games. I'm preaching to Coach Freeze as if I know coaching, but we're just having fun doing what analysts do. There'll be games that the edge rusher you're facing, you're just not blocking. You're not pass protecting well enough. So you've got to mitigate risk sometimes by running right at him, putting an extra blocker in there, putting a tight end on him. And I'd like to see Coach Freeze take a step in certain games where he understands that I really love calling 60-40 pass run ratio, but this is the wrong game to try to do it.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And what you have to do as a coach is you've got to identify personnel. You've got to identify personnel. Who's the defensive players that can absolutely change the game, okay? That can change the game with a pass rush, with a sack, a safety play in the middle of the field. I mean, linebackers, fitting downhill and so just absolutely identifying the players that you can't let beat you. You can't let these guys beat you. And Dwight Freeney, when I coached in the National Football League, Dwight Freeney was with the Colts, right? I mean, one of the most dynamic pass rushers that there was in the league. And so what we did, we got together a plan where the tight end and the fullback went wherever Freeney went. Okay, if Freeney lined up to the right side of the offense, then boom, we had our fullback, we had our tight end go. He lined up on the left. If they shifted Freeney, which they wouldn't do, they didn't do that. Hell, we'd go with them, and we played the game without giving up a sack to Dwight Freeney, and so I just think that identifying the personnel, knowing Hugh Freeze is an excellent football coach.
No doubt.
Make no mistake about it. Hugh Freeze is dynamic. He's a play caller. He knows his stuff. He now, I think, has got his guys in Auburn, Alabama. And I think that this year you're going to see, a much improved. I think you're going to see a very good, an outstanding Auburn Tiger football team.
Coach, I used to get to go to practice back when we could go to practice at Auburn. I remember the defensive linemen at the end of practice were on those decline benches, and they would take the medicine ball, go all the way back, chunk it to the other guy. He'd go all the way back. And they worked on details like that. Their abs were just look like rebar, okay? But they said, you're going to get hit in the stomach. You're going to get hit a lot. But when that happens, you've got to stay in the game. You can't hit a speed bump. And what this conversation has really devolved into, and I love it, the questions from Doug and Ronnie, and I hope mine are good too. But God bless America. We're talking about football, the X's and O's, the kind of people that play the game. And I'm with you. I think if I had to guess and bet a sack full of crystals on it, I would say Hugh Freeze probably has other people doing the NIL. He wants to get back to coaching.
Right.
And I think we need, like what Coach Bryant told you, he said, boy, go get you a high school job and learn how to coach. We're pushing people to the front of the line. We're reading chapter 1 and chapter 2 of a 12-chapter book, and everybody's trying to, what about the playoff? What about the 12 games to get there? The journey has to matter. And the players that play the game, these are our sons, our friends, our nephews, brother-in-laws. When you talk to people who've played at the level, I mean, my God, you've forgotten more than I know times 10. But the stories of these people, that's what keeps us coming back. It annuitizes the game, doesn't it?
There's no question about it. And let's make no mistake about this thing, okay? The number one thing that you had better be if you're a football player is you had better be a tough guy. Yeah. You had better be what society is creating right now, guys, is a bunch of soft young men. Yeah. Okay? A bunch of young men that would much prefer to sit up on the couch and play with their phone, play with their iPad, whatever it may be. It's hard, tough work to play football. When it's hot in the summertime, it's 100 degrees, and you're out there running sprints and in full pads, and you're a Pop Warner League player. I mean, you know, the thing I wanted to know, there's two things that I had to know about a player, you know, is how much does he love the game? It goes back to Coach Smart. It goes back to Coach Smart said, if you don't love the game, I ain't got time for you. Okay. If money's more important to you than your love for the game, then let's move on. We'll go get somebody else. And then it's about toughness, guys. It's about toughness. It's about being tough, and you have to play the game tough, you know, and that's what we're losing some of that, you know. It's becoming more of a, you know, a finesse game and this and that. But and I'm just going to tell you, the teams that can run the football, okay, they're the ones that win natties. Yeah, they're the ones that win natties. If you really look at it, you look at the national championship team we had in 2013 at Florida State. We ran that. We ran the mess up. I think we beat them Auburn Tigers in the national championship game out there in the Rose Bowl.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah, I was there. Too soon to bring up. Too soon to talk about coaching.
I was standing on the other sideline, but I was happy for you guys when you won. I had a ton of friends on that other sideline, Jimbo and Trickett and Sal Sinceri and Damian Craig, and there were a bunch of guys on that staff that I had known
Coach,
for a long time.
What impressed me so much once I got past the pain and suffering of getting that close and not closing the deal, and I sat. That was a beautiful venue to watch that, an unbelievable game. But what really impressed me with that Seminole team that won it was their resilience, and that comes from the players themselves, and it's got to come from coaches. That Auburn was on the verge before that fake punt that was a perfectly timed, and I think that Gus Malzahn was the only person in the stadium that was not yelling fake, but it worked. And but that game was close to getting out of reach for Florida State, if that's not offensive to say. But they were resilient. They just kept scrapping and clawing. And then when we all sat in the stands, and I told my Auburn friends when Trey Mason made that breakaway run to take the lead, I said, I think he scored too quick. You know, don't you? You love to see if you can get over your own fandom and say what just happened here. There was two teams really competing really hard, physical game, great coaching on both sides, and Florida State had one more beautiful drive in them to win that one.
Exactly. And the leadership, guys, and let's call it this, the Alabama young man who made a decision to come to the state of Florida, come to Florida State, Jameis Winston, his leadership, guys. I mean, there's no way for me to overestimate what his leadership meant to our football team. All year long, you know, we got ourselves in tough situations, and Jameis would bring us out of it. You know, he'd come out of the thing. And I'll be done. You know, I mean, he did the same thing in the national championship game against Auburn, you know, led us down the field. You know, Jameis Winston was truly one of the great college football players. And, you know, like I said, his leadership, he's still playing to this day. And I knew this. There wasn't anybody else in America that I wanted to lead us at quarterback on that last drive to go win that netting.
Oh, it was, and you know, it was almost like if you buy into karma at all, Auburn had too much fun late season that year between that immaculate deflection to Ricardo Lewis against Georgia not to mention the most iconic finish to any game, the kick six game. It was probably asking a lot. Maybe it was asking too much of the football gods to have one. But I was looked up, and that final kickoff FSU had to make after taking the lead looked interesting, didn't it? If you go back and look at it, you don't get perfect camera angles, but can you imagine that game if it ends on a long kickoff return for Auburn to have yet another miracle? But yeah, that was a great that was Jimbo's signature year, wasn't it?
There's no doubt about it. I mean, an undefeated season, and I think, guys, amazingly, I think we won my first 2 years. I think within those two, we won like 27 straight games before we got beat in the semifinals against Oregon back in the Rose Bowl. I mean, just an amazing run by Jimbo Fisher led football team at Florida State for sure.
Coach, if I were paying you a compliment, I don't want to be too sappy, but I'm capable of that when you talk college football. If I had never met you before and Ronnie and Rob hadn't told us who was joining us, what an honor it's been done. If I had never met Coach Brewster and just heard you talk for a little while about football, I'd say that man is coached at every level a lot.
Yeah.
You just know coaches, and I bet you were tough when you played. And as an old line coach, the great one of Coach Dye's favorite assistants, Joe Witt, that Ronnie's close to. Ronnie's been a farmhand for. Coach Witt told me, I think it was Coach Witt, that when he's recruiting edge rushers, really any defensive lineman, and he was partly joking but not entirely. He said they got to have the physical talent and the metrics and all the measurables. But he said, really, I'm looking for a football player. And I said, well, duh. But he went on to talk about it. And some of them just are tough. They just have a nose for the football. And then he went on to say, and, once in a while, you can't have a whole team worth of these, but you might want an edge rusher who didn't have the best childhood. He's kind of mad at the world because his job is to be meaner and tougher and do whatever it takes to get around that left tackle.
No question. And I appreciate you. And this is the deal. Okay. I love football. I love ball. I love ball inside and out, every way you can do it. My wife knows it. Mom's just been so good to me. And I just truly believe if you love football, football's going to love you back. Okay. It's given me so much, guys, in my life. It's taken me all, and the bottom line, I think it just teaches so many great lessons on, being a good human being and doing things, learning a work ethic, learning about toughness, taking the hard road down the street, man. I mean, and so I just really think we can't get away from the things that truly make the game great, and the love for the game, the toughness for the game, the execution for the game. I mean, effort without execution is absolutely meaningless, man.
Yeah.
Why do it?
Yeah.
Effort without execution. Execute the game.
Coach,
go ahead.
Finish your thought. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just hey, the details of the game. Know the details of the game.
Yeah.
And we as coaches, we got to just continue to do a great job of coach them hard. Coach them as hard as you can, but love them just as hard as you're coaching them.
And I think you have to, coaches now, they talk about, they got to be creative at finding those players who are talented enough, high 3-star, 4-star, a few 5-stars, so you can compete and make big plays. But I bet they're also looking carefully, and they probably have to look harder for that kid that is willing to be coached hard, which is probably a shorter supply than 20 or 30 years, even 10 years ago.
But hear me out on this. If that player, if he knows in his heart, deep in his heart, that you genuinely care about him as a human being, he'll let you coach him as hard as you want to coach him. Okay. But if that player doesn't think that you genuinely care about him, he's going to kick you to the curb. He's not going to.
And he'll be in the portal.
Absolutely.
Coach, let me ask an NFL kind of supply and demand question. As you watch college football potentially become like the AFC and NFC in the big conferences, the power conferences in terms of how the playoff will look, a question some of us have is, will there be an impact in terms of player development at the college level that the NFL will start to feel a shortage? I realize most of the great first and high second round drafts come from the Deep South, the Big Ten, and some other places. But there's a question. But they also draft a lot of great NFL players who come from schools that aren't brand name. They're just great players. Are we about to impact the supply of well-developed, ready for the NFL players with all this going on in college football?
Well, there's absolutely no question, and there's a tremendous concern across the nation about it, and with so many kids changing schools so fast, jumping in the portal, jumping out of the portal. I mean, some of these kids, I can't keep up. Some of these kids have been to 4 and 5 different colleges. I mean, how are you getting in a position where you're being developed? To me, I just think it's too easy to say I'm out. Okay, what happened to the word commitment? Commitment. Now, I understand this. Okay, and Ronnie works with coaches. Okay, coaches are moving all around. Coaches are they're going to different schools. They're leaving. They're going. Why can't players do the same thing? I get it. I totally understand that. I'd love to see. It's all money driven, guys. It's all money driven. Everything right now is money driven, and I just really hope that that we get some true guidelines for the NIL and what we're trying to accomplish as far as putting more sanity back into our game. We have lost some of the absolute best coaches in football. Maybe the greatest coach of all time, Coach Saban at Alabama. He left because I think there was extreme disappointment with the direction of the game. Okay, there's basketball coaches that have Mike Krzyzewski. There's it's not headed in the right direction, guys. And I think that Coach Saban has reached out to President Trump. And they're kind of getting together, and they're kind of sharing some thoughts and ideas about what we can do to bring more sanity back to our game. And I really hope that they're successful in getting that done, because we need to get this game back to the game, to where it was.
I want to throw one at you. You said something about you can coach a kid. I believe in being as hard as hell on people. I mean, that's the way I was raised. That's the way I am with my kids. I will never be soft. I don't believe in it. I think it's a sellout. I'll tell you, if you want to see something, military recruitment in the last 4 years was down 35 to 40%. And I've heard, and I can't confirm it, but I have heard that I heard someone trying to tell me in basic training, you can pull a card if the drill instructor is being too tough on you, and they got to back down. God help us. I'm going to tell you something. I had a man named Russell Reed. It was my homeroom teacher at Christian Brothers High School. As he used to say, boy, I was the last 16 letterman in Ole Miss history. Football, basketball, baseball, and track and field. And Coach Reed used to smoke Swisher Sweet cigars and sit next to me every time we watched a movie in history class. He got on me a couple of times, but he got my attention. But I think about the people in my life, and Doug, Ronnie, you, that are the toughest on you. That's because they care about you. As Coach Dye would say, you got to be tough as hell on them. That way they know that you love them. And I've always learned, if I'm tough on you, that means I care about you. But when I lose interest in being tough on you, I've checked out, because you've checked out. And we've got to get back to coaching them hard. I think these kids are clamoring to be coached hard. And if you go soft and easy just to curry favor with a position group on your team or something like that, it'll cost you in the end. And I think kids will tell you this. My kids have said, it ain't the kids today, it's the adults. It's not us, but it's a lot of adults that just want to be their friend. And the game of football is a tough, violent, physical game. Make it as safe as you can. But look at you. You're about to come through the screen. This is what I love.
Ain't no doubt. Hey, listen, you hit on some great points right there, and the toughness aspect is huge across the board. Whether or not you're playing football or not, whether or not you're
Life.
you had better be a tough guy. Tough guys win. Okay, soft guys, and I'm with you. I can't relate really much with that, and I just, again, it goes back to this, is that, okay, so you Rick, hey Ronnie, how about Rick Trickett? How many times Rick Trickett
There's a tough coach.
hat off and squat a 6'7", 340-pound offensive lineman, and that offensive lineman is looking down on him and could squash Trickett like an ant. But you know what? He's got amazing respect for Trick because of how much Trick, pours into coaching his players. One of the absolute best football coaches I've ever been around is Rick Trickett. Yeah. You talk about an old, tough as a freaking old ass boot.
Vietnam vet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so, but again, it just goes back to this, guys. When you're getting after their butt as you're leaving the field, you slide over there to your guy and, you put your arm around his neck and you say, you know what, bud, hey, I'm trying to make you better, and you got to help me make you better.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to, and you got to know this, okay, how much I care about you. And if coaches don't take the time to learn players' families and get to know their brothers and sisters and what's going on in their life, they're totally missing the boat. Totally missing the boat. Okay. And that's one of the things that I coach them as hard as you can coach. Okay. I've done it for a long time, but I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to take the time necessary. Hey, mama's not doing well, coach. Mama's not doing well. You know what? Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to be on the phone with mama tonight. Yeah. And just doing the things necessary to make sure that kids know the deal, but make no mistake about it. And it all, guys, it's all about the head coach. The head coach is leading the way. He's got to lead the charge as far as the culture that you build. You go to Georgia. I've been to Georgia, coached again. Dadgum, that you are getting in a fist fight for 4 quarters. It's going to be a hard, tough football game. And to be honest with you, that's dang near every team in the SEC. Okay. But that's how your team had better be identified. You better be identified, because I'm going to tell you what, that SEC, ooh, Lord have mercy, man.
Coach, you apply everything you're saying to an actual game. Yet in an otherwise kind of meaningless game, if an hour can ever be meaningless. But 2007, Coach Saban's first year at Bama, and most of us knew he was going to turn it around. We were hoping it would take longer than it did. All he did was win the national championship in 2009. But the end of that 2007 Iron Bowl in Jordan-Hare, I was able to get the ball. They had a lead, but not a safe lead, and they were in Alabama territory, 4th and less than 1. Tuberville gets a timeout, and the play call, Al Borges was OC. He brought his whole offense over the sideline, and this is coaching and this is toughness. And he said, no, we're not going to attempt a field goal, and we're not going to try a pooch punt. We're going to run the ball here, and if you guys aren't tough enough to get 1 yard, you don't deserve to win the game. Yeah, that's coaching it. Of course, and the running back spun and
what's the offensive lineman? I'm going to talk. If I'm in the huddle and I've got my guys and but you have practiced that situation so many times. The offense had better know what you're fixing to call. They better know what you're fixing to call. Hey man, what are we doing on 4th and 1? Hell, we're running giant power, man.
Right down your throat.
Right down the throat, and the goosebumps on the offensive lineman's arms. They jump up. They're all fired up and excited.
That's a beautiful thing. He ran for like 12 yards, if I remember, broke tackles. And
love it.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about, you've coached at Mississippi State, you've coached at Florida. In Texas. Talk a little bit about coaching at some of the better jobs in the conference. How does Auburn compare to those jobs?
Well, I think Auburn is truly one of the great jobs in America because it sits in the great state of Alabama. I mean, there's so many good football players around there. And then, just to the north, you've got Mississippi. You can go into Florida, you can go to Texas. And Ronnie, it's all about recruiting to me. It's all about, Darryl Royal told me at the University of Texas, it's not about the X's and O's, it's about the Jimmies and the Joes.
Right.
And so, it's all about your ability to recruit, and now it's so much because I've always been known as one of the top, and I'm not trumping my horn. I've been a good recruiter, long time. Okay. I will go get them. I went into Mississippi and got one of the best players, you go into recruited Vince Young when I was at the University of Texas.
Wow.
You got to have the ability to go get the players. And I think that Hugh's an outstanding recruiter. He's got a good staff. They recruit well. I just, I think and this new facility that Auburn's got, they say is absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it is. Players talk about it.
And so you can compare it to any place else in America now, and I mean, Texas, are you kidding me? Texas A&M. I mean, you're talking the money that those two universities have, the commitment to the facilities that they have. I mean, that it's across the board in the SEC, but there's like Alabama and Auburn, guys.
Coach, I'm about to cut out, it's Rob and Ronnie's show. But for my money, I hope you'll join us again as this season progresses.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, guys. I may step back into coaching. I've been out of it here for a couple of months, but I'm telling you what, I'm too antsy, guys.
We need you in coaching. We need you.
Absolutely. And I look forward to getting back in the game. I love football. I appreciate you guys having me on, man. This has been a blast.
Absolutely.
It is. And Doug, you're part of this team, man. And I know you got to get rolling, but I'm with you, man. We can't keep losing you and we can't lose any more Jay Wrights and Coach K, Coach Saban. I mean, you've got to have the people that drive the narrative and the alpha males. Betas don't get it. They don't understand. And there have been beta coaches that wear sweater vests, and then there's coaches that don't. But I see in coaching, we need to almost have a man camp because we have gotten soft. And you look at football. Tracy Rocker was telling me one time back in May of 2010, he was on the staff at Auburn. I said, what's the biggest difference in kids today and the kids back when you and I were in school? He said, simple. Kids today, they show up 15 minutes before practice, and they've been in the air conditioning all day playing with a pad or an iPad or whatever. And you and I were growing up. We were outside. As soon as we got up in the morning, our parents were like, get out of here, man. Just go. We were running from the cops, each other. But when we were acclimated to it, we were
learning street life.
That's right.
No doubt. Hey, when the street light came on, I heard Mama yelling.
Yeah, that's right.
When the street light came on at night, I was, football, basketball, all this, individualism, focus on one sport. I mean, we played it all back in the day, guys. And you guys know that I think that's a big part of truly developing kids is play different sports, run track, run track.
Yeah, guys, Coach, as I listened to Coach talking, I couldn't help but had a flashback to childhood football. I wasn't as scared of my coach in high school. I was scared of going home to my dad when I was playing tight end and I'd missed 3 blocks. It was my dad that I didn't want to do your job.
Yeah, and it's different today. You got the parents that are showing up to practice with the tailgate down on their truck with a cooler of beer. And all these adults at practice. My dad was always traveling. We didn't go to our practices. They trusted the coaches and said, what? Don't embarrass our family,
Yeah. Let me ask y'all something. Did any of y'all get participation trophy or ribbon?
Hell no.
No.
What the hell? What's that all about?
We got taunted if we lost, and that was part of it.
Yeah. You know what? You just had
Rob,
to double down.
I do think that culturally, and I don't want to get into politics, but that I think there's a really big resurgence of masculinity, good masculinity in the U.S., and we're way overdue for it.
Yeah.
No
and
doubt.
we are, because when you listen to what every one of us, people are starved for it, man. I mean, I just
Even
think
the ladies are starved for real
the
masculinity.
women are they want alpha males. I mean, I think that football you can't make football what it's not, but make it safe. Nobody wants people to get hurt. I
Right.
mean, God bless. I know people.
Guys,
let
I'm
me-
cutting out. Y'all have a great coach. Have a great evening. Look forward to seeing you.
You got it. Hey, let me ask you guys something real quick. How cool would it be to have a football coach as the governor of the state of Alabama?
May
I
have
think
one
it'd be
pretty
cool.
soon.
It's not impossible.
We may have one pretty soon.
I saw the chances of that happening. I saw that the other night that Coach Tuberville decided he's going to throw his hat in the ring. And again, football coaches, I think, are absolutely, they're the best of the best. And I football coach can teach the world some really good lessons.
The only thing that pisses me off a little, coach, as an Auburn man, is I can understand losing Bruce Pearl or, a coach you want to retain to another great program. We're losing them to politics. And now the latest rumor is Bruce Pearl running for the same Senate seat that Tubbs is going to vacate. What a world.
Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
Y'all have a great evening, gentlemen.
Thank you, Doug. And Coach, really, my wife says this a lot. She has 3 brothers, and then her 3 cousins were her brothers. Her dad, they live 2 blocks away. So she had 6 brothers, and she's good looking. I said, I can't imagine what it was like trying to get a date with you, because she has 1 brother, 26 years, Kurt, in the Marine Corps, 7 combat tours. He's as laid back as Willie Nelson on sleeping pills. Big Tennessee fan, okay?
Okay.
And I'm up there at his man cave watching, a Tennessee game with him against Florida a couple of years ago. And Florida took Tennessee out pretty bad. And I look over there at him and I'm like, man, this is terrible. And he goes, no, he goes, I can show you terrible. He talked a little about Fallujah, and I'm going, yeah. But you know what? I think about Rick Trickett. We had him on the show a few weeks ago. I love that guy. He's a hard ass. And you know what? Everybody that played for him, maybe some of them couldn't take it, but you love a guy like that. You know what? He said he's 77. I thought he was in his 50s. I have no idea, but he's devoted his life, and his kids have taken it on. That ought to tell you that it made a positive impression on them. But when you see kids that you've coached at any level years later, and they say, man, Coach, thank you for putting a foot up my rear and not letting me quit on myself, because I was so many times in life, let's say they're a doctor, how many times they wanted to quit medical school. The first day they pulled the sheet up over the cadaver and they had to give it a name. A lot of people faint. They can't take it. But you remember in football, because, one of those lessons, if you quit out here because this is too tough, you're going to quit everything tough the rest of your life. And you need to get back into coaching. I don't know where, but you're a young guy. I mean, you must be the same age as I am, because I was in college at Liberty Bowl in Memphis. Holy cow. I remember Mr. Young having Coach Brian over at the house. It was crazy. 21-15. I've seen more pictures of that scoreboard. And you know what happened to Coach Brian at that game? He didn't have his press credentials, and the old codger, the Lions Club guy that was running the elevator to get to the top, goes, you ain't getting in because you don't have your proper credentials. He goes, well, I'm the coach of this football team. He goes, I don't care. Great stories like that. But you got to get back into coaching, and you got to come back on. I do a regular show Monday through Friday in the mornings. You got to be part of it. Ronnie, where do you find these guys? I love this.
Hey, guys, I've enjoyed that. And the biggest, just going back to Trick real quick, the biggest compliment I can give a guy, I had 3 sons that all played Division I football. And
wow.
And if my sons could have played for a man like Rick Trickett, I'd have been very, very proud.
Yeah.
It was, I love him. I love him to death. And the fact that he's still coaching down there at Jacksonville State. Yeah. I mean, he's down there. He's down there with my boy Charlie. I mean, I'll tell you what. I'll be surprised if Charlie and those boys, they don't turn that into Trickett's kids working with him too.
Clint,
his son is the offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think it's great. And you know what? 3 sons played Division I football. And you know what? We underestimate too how much women love college football. half the people at the games are women. And
my wife is in the background here. She's raising her hand. She's waving it high.
Look, I'm married to Evolve for life. Oldest daughter went to Alabama. The rest of us are Auburn. Man, that's what makes it so much fun, isn't it, Ronnie? You're married to a Gator.
I'm married to Gator. I think she's converted to Auburn now, though. But, but talk a little bit about. We got about 4 minutes left, but talk about the SEC 2025. How do you see it breaking down?
You know what? It just, like I said earlier, it's just so darn competitive. And you've got some guys that got to make, they got to do some things, right, Ronnie? We've talked about Billy Napier at Florida. It's time for Billy to step up and really get that thing rolling. When you think back, Ronnie, about what Dan Mullen did at Florida, winning 10 games 3 years in a row, playing for an SEC championship against Alabama, losing, a last possession type of game, and so, the standard's been set there. And so there's some guys that, we talked about Coach Freeze at Auburn and having his team ready to go. I just think that week in and week out, it's going to be amazingly competitive. I think Mike Elko is going to have that Texas A&M team, playing good ball this year. I think his transition year coming out of year one, they'll be much improved. I just think that, again, week in and week out, it's the best football that you can get. I can't get enough of watching SEC football, and I just really feel like, again, this year it's going to be amazing, and look forward to it.
Amen here. When you drive, Ronnie, we run out of time, and I know Brendan's got to get to Stella's graduation, our producer, but we have an executive producer, Brendan Martin, son of Buddy Martin, who grew up with football and been around this all of his life. And man, when you put all this stuff together on a show like this is cool. Next time we got to get some videos of you coaching. That's what I want.
Hey, there's some stuff out there. Hey, and guys, listen, thanks again. I don't want you to feel bad about this, but I'm fixing to put 2 bone-in pork chops on the grill. and I got a cold beer sitting right here. And I'm gonna promise you now, I'm gonna enjoy my evening. And I love being on with you guys.
Well, hey Ronnie, if you'll get him to come back on, man, we'll do it again, because a lot of people are texting me going, man, this guy needs to be on SEC Network. I mean, we need you to preach every day your message of positive, hard work, relentless. Tough times don't last forever, but tough people do. Go eat that big pork chop, man. Have fun.
Hey, appreciate you guys. Thank you.
All right,
thanks,
you bet.
Enjoyed it.
Man, Ronnie, that was fun. And you know what? You think about Pete Jenkins as another one at 83. And I didn't trick him.
We had him on not too long ago.
I'd love to get him on, because wherever he goes, great things happen. All right, well, we will wrap it up. Man, this channel, our executive producer, Brendan Martin, I know he's got to go to graduation. Thanks, everybody. We got through a lot today, but Ronnie, you are like Merv Griffin. You just find these great guests, okay?
Well,
who loves you, baby?
It was a lot of fun. I've known Brew for a long time, and he still has a lot of energy. And I think he is he may have something coming here in the next couple of weeks. So keep an eye out for that.
We'll be watching, man. Thank y'all, everybody. Thank you for watching, and keep staying in touch in this channel. And AU Undercover, no better place to follow the Auburn Tigers.